moderated by Emil Hańczuk from Solidarity Union, and our speakers are Siegfried Schramm, General Secretary of Employees, Krzysztof Świątek, editor of Polish Radio, and Elżbieta Rafalska, deputy member of the European Parliament. So I give floor to Emilia Hańczuk. Good morning. I'm delighted to be a moderator of today's forum, today's panel of the forum, with the title, "What Heroes Are Necessary for a Contemporary World?" And we know that the world is facing what will be answer to this question. So I should start question from question to Elżbieta Rafalska. So we shall move to other questions. Speaking about European integration, we should put stress to its economic aspect, but the Solidarity Trade Union suggests to develop integration. Contacts have a strong advantage. But coming to the topic, the question is justified, because I can say honestly that pandemia surprised us, although ones could cope better, other ones worse. But there was an expectation that we shall experience that EU solidarity, how it looked like at the beginning. First, you have international isolation. That was a good way to resolve the problem. The member countries not only have competences in healthcare, but quick actions where Poland can be presented as an example of countries that could cope very quickly with limitation, with discipline of Poles, who are also co-participants or the co-creators of the lower rate of infections on the background of other countries.
Starting with Mr. Giorgi Agirbaia, founder of Proactive Group, Georgia. International solidarity can be understood and interpreted in many different ways. I would like to ask you, what are the aspects it can take on?
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here. You hear me all well, right? Good.
Yes.
Great. So it's my pleasure to be here and among these panelists, and it's big applause to the organizers. So keep it this online level and to make it virtual. So this tradition is kept very good side. And what about the question? So I would say that international cooperation is one of the core elements of the international solidarity, but it shouldn't be limited only by the late aid, humanitarian assistance, or let's say different support from this case, humanitarian or aid or charity, etc. Because we should understand is a broader perspectives and concept of the international solidarity. In terms of it's about living, all members and the international communities coexistence and living peacefully. At the same time, it should be understand much a broader understanding of the concept, like it could be international relations, cooperations, and in the economics also. Because I would say that we had different cases, and especially in this pandemic world showed us how much is important to have our international solidarity and for sustainability, because if you want to make this sustainability, it should be also include for the developing of the financing, because this is one of huge resources, and I think that you demonstrated it very well during this pandemic world, which also Georgia got a lot of support in terms of, but there could be different perspectives. So what I would say, one of the mentions that what the influences of the international cooperation in terms of solidarity, because it influences in many different ways. If we take like political support or economical and etc. Because let's imagine that if we have like a stronger neighbors and stronger partners, we have less difficulties in the region and we have much security. And when we have security and stability, we have the more chances for developing and to achieving the progress in our society and in Europe. And that's, I think, the core values we have, and especially it's visible with the cooperation of the European Union and Eastern Partnership. And I would bring one of the example, for example, into for the political and the economic, let's say, influence and how much it can, let's say, support of democratic development in the partner countries, which is, let's say, now the democracy is developing and not, let's say, in the perfect stage, but I would say reminds the case of the 2018 in Georgia when we had the Russian intervention during the August, and international solidarity stood up not only for Georgia but for these main values of the sovereignty and to support the region and region stability. And there was a lot of support from the US, European Union, etc. But what I would love to mention and highlight, one of the great case, I would say that when we had the 5 presidents coming even during the war, it was August of 12 when we hosted, let's say, 5 presidents coming from the Baltic states, Poland, and Ukraine. And I would highlight that from the Mr. President, former President Lech Kaczynski, who is the actual national hero also in Georgia. So he was saying that we come today here in Georgia to support the democratic and independent sovereign country, because if it will be today Georgia and we don't support and we don't express our solidarity towards Georgia, it might be next, say, Ukraine, and it might be next the Baltic states or Poland, because we all know this Russian regime, and from the past common history which unites us. And from this perspective, I would say that it was a great remarks, and after we celebrating the 14th anniversary of the solidarity, it could be the very good cases and to reach to the young generation. And I think it's one of the great program from this perspective of what influences on the international aspects for the solidarity. I would say the European Solidarity Corps, which is a youth program, but a very great step forward, which develops the spirit and values that motivates young people to understand better how can build a more democratic Europe and how can build the solidarity in Europe. Because this program is especially for the young people, and it helps a lot of different things to increase, to strengthen this understanding of the citizenship in the Europe. And especially this is great that our, let's say, people from the partner countries like Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and other partner countries, Belarus or Ukraine, etc., can participate in such cases. What I would say is that, let's summarize for this point, that if we have the stronger neighbors and with a win-win situation, this is for everyone. As I mentioned today also, I was listening carefully about the great speech of the Mr. President, and what I took from this international cooperation and solidarity, because if you want to support if you want to invest in future, and if you want to invest a better European future, we need to much more support in understand and strengthen the international solidarity from the economical side, from the political side. Sometimes statements are good, but I think that when there is possibility and actions makes sounds louder. So, and I think that these steps made by the European Commission and let's say our neighbors is always engages us, motivates us to do more for fruitful cooperation between the countries, between the institutions. And this direction, I think that we need to develop more and more. And if you want to invest in a future, we invest in international solidarity, and through one of the things could be a solidarity of the engaging from the youth aspects and empowering youth in this direction.
Thank you very much. Especially thank you for bringing up the example of our late President Lech Kaczynski. And now I would like to ask, what is it really that the world needs today? Charismatic leaders, or maybe it's intensified and well-organized actions at the heart of society? Mr. Giorgi Agirbaia, can you please share your opinion on that topic?
So it's my pleasure. Sure. I mean, thank you very much. These very interesting questions, because we have a lot of discussions it's about, from one side, we have charismatic leaders who have all the skills needed, and the people easily follow, and it's like a role model. From the other side, with the followers and with the people who can be self-organized at the same time. We have different examples, and I think that it's better to analyze according to the history, and let's say what the practices we have. According to this, we could see that which part would be much better. So if you take this Belarusian situation in Belarus now, and my full support and solidarity to the free democratic nations, the people of Belarus. And actually, I believe because it was in my childhood in 97 and 98, I lived in Belarus. There was Lukashenko as the president. Now I'm around like 27, 28, and there is still Lukashenko as the president. So I think that this regime should be changed, and its solidarity of the organized people, it's let's say appreciated. But what we see is that Belarus now that the lack of the leaders and the lack of the opposition leaders in the country. And from that perspective, because we see there are several days of the, so let's say thousands of people demonstrates, so let's say 100,000, even more people in the streets, but still we don't have these results. So what we take in the situation, because we also had the Georgian case practices. So when the youth demonstrated, and when the youth demonstrated, when you have this lack of the experience, even though you have like a right to demonstrate, and there is thousands of people in Georgia, I feel that these leaders needed, and these leaders shouldn't, it doesn't mean that it's like a political party's demonstration, but coexistence and cooperation in this direction with the political leaders, or like leaders in general. I think that that supports much more, because if we have like this power and if we have this synergy, but we don't have the person who gives us direction, or let's say, I think the leader in this direction gives the direction, and if the right leaders give the right direction, so we achieve our like final results faster. So on as a conclusion, I would say that taking into consideration that is the style of the right leadership, and taking into consideration the current situation, because in Georgia it might be easily that if it's one person or one political party has a lot of power, let's say, they can be towards attracted by the like authority, or later, as we see in Belarus, or to the dictatorship. But in countries we don't have these organized groups, there should be some person should be motivated and encouraged to join to the civil protest. From that perspective, I would say that in Europe there is no problem, but I would say that in Europe we wish other type of leaders. In European Union, I'm a member state, I would say that there is a lot of great people in this direction, but in the political parties, but I would say that from the directions that young people engaged in more political parts, because there's very diverse groups, very diverse engagement, because we need kind of other type of leaders in developing countries. I think in European Union, they have their needs also leadership, but mostly combined situation, I think that this synergy can play the best way. The charismatic plus self-organized action group, because as we see from the past and history teaches us, that mostly that these people unites us, and those leaders unite us, and after this unites, when we united, we reached achieved the faster. For example, in US, when we had a Martin Luther King, and let's say other presidents, or let's say in the European situation also, that when we have these true leaders, they make, from my perspective and from our history, which is that makes much faster goals and develops the process much faster to the new level. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess we need both. We need strong leaders and big numbers, right?
Just I will answer the question. I would like to mention at the beginning to appreciate our colleague from Georgia. I was listening with great interest to his first speech related to international solidarity. Dziękuję.
Former President Lech Kaczynski as an example of this international solidarity in 2008 when it was the Russian aggression for Georgia, and you have said that that Lech Kaczynski is now a national hero of Georgia. So thank you very much for your saying, and it was really moving for us as a Pole, for me as a Pole and a Polish society. Chciałem podziękować, bo to naprawdę rzeczywiście było
I would like to appreciate because it was really important Economic and Social Committee.
Bardzo szczęśliwy jestem, że mogę być wirtualnie z Wami na Ekonomicznym Forum Młodych Liderów w tych wyjątkowych czasach, kiedy Europa walczy z wpływem pandemii covidowej.
economic, social, environmental, and cultural solution. This pandemic is a wake-up call, alerting us to the necessity to change our way of living, of consuming, and of producing. We must not fall into the trap of striving to come back to the situation before Corona.